Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce you to my next guest. I get to share a cup of broth with a new friend. His name is Mike Scarbeau, and he's the Director of IT for Commonwealth Mutual Insurance Group. It's a fantastic organization. If you haven't heard of them, they're located in Lindsay, Ontario, and they rank on Canada's Great Place to Work list. I chose Mike for this series because he's an IT leader who's just really great at what he does. He understands that in order to create value in IT, two things matter most. Number one, staying ahead of business trends and emerging tools and technologies. And secondly, human connection. The ability to foster really great relationships across an entire organization is so important. I also chose him because he is one of those rare people who found his calling at a very young age. And he shared a couple of really great stories with me from his childhood. First, as a young Atari player, he taught his grandfather how to play video games. And then next, as a sports fanatic, he discovered his love of data. He would go around clipping stats anywhere he could find them in newspapers, in magazines, and then he went on to create his own sports stat database. People who are doing work they're meant to do always have great insights to share. This interview is going to be great. I love meeting remarkable candidates and placing them into exciting careers. Outside of work, I have a passion for health and nutrition. Having recently discovered the many benefits of homemade bone broth, I thought it'd be fun to share a cup of broth with some amazing people as we chat through career and life advice. I'm Virginia Pauley, and this is Recruiter at Home Drinking Broth. Hello, Michael. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me today. I know you're a super busy guy, so I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me over a cup of broth. What I prepared for you is a roasted beef broth made of spring water, roasted bones, and caramelized veggies. There's also one weird ingredient. I always add one weird ingredient, and that is calf's foot, which is necessary for achieving the proper gel in the broth. I also prepared some sides for you. So salt, cilantro, and lime. And I think I packed some ginger as well. My favorite way to have the broth is a lime and cilantro. I love it. But I also am aware that cilantro is one of those weird herbs that people either love or hate. My husband, for example, hates cilantro. He thinks it tastes like the CK1 cologne. So how do you feel about it? The cilantro, not the cologne.
The cologne brings me back in time, yeah, I used all the ingredients that you listed in it, so I'm going to give it a shot. No, it's really nice.
Great. I'm glad you like it.
You're saying, Virginia, you have this often, this broth.
I start these conversations over a cup of broth because it's a healthy alternative to coffee. And especially during these times, I think it's important for all of us to remember to put health first. So for me, making broth is a form of physical, mental, and now also social self-care, which brings me to my first question. What are some of the things that you're doing to look after yourself with respect to health and wellness?
A mentor of mine once said, kind of take care of yourself first, then take care of the ones you love around you next, and then your career and interest there. And at first I wondered, what it meant by that, but if you're not feeling good and feeling your best, then it's hard to do the other things sometimes. So I kind of viewed this past year as a challenge. So, every day I definitely make sure I get a certain amount of steps in. When the weather is nice enough, maybe a run, actually working out at home, probably working out more than I ever have. So things like that has been, maybe because of the way our schedules have adapted, it's actually been a good way to be more active. And then I think being at home also, Virginia, is a way to eat healthier too.
Yes.
So like this is my lunch today. It's a shake. So instead of, getting lunch out at a business lunch over at a restaurant or, fast food at work, or if you brought something. So I find for that, it's actually been one of the healthiest years, but it's been a concentrated effort. I had to be a mindset from the start.
And what have you done with your team to mix things up?
It's interesting. One thing I'm hearing is like people are having meeting fatigue because, that chat you'd have by the water cooler in the office or going by someone's desk is now a meeting perhaps, or a video conference. So we try and still have those, but we try and keep them light and interesting and fun. So I do with the group, like just virtual chats. We'll throw out random questions to get to know people more. We will play virtual games. We did trivia. We've done some of the social apps where you can play little games on there. So we try and do stuff like that. As you just even in the midst of the day, just to have the socializing that you do naturally get in an in-person environment.
That's great. It's so good to hear that. How has virtual work impacted your recruiting effort?
Uh, Prior to the pandemic, I've had a pretty wide network that I've gone to, and I've had partners like yourself I've relied on to find talent. I think the big change happened for me before the pandemic, joining a company like the Commonwealth, which is the first company I've worked for outside of the core of Toronto. I knew for me to be competitive with getting the right talent, I had to change my philosophy and a recruiting strategy to an extent. The first thing was I have staff that's situated all over Ontario. And our headquarters is in a city called Lindsay.
Yeah.
Some people might be familiar with it. It's a beautiful town. But sometimes if you want to get talent from the GTA across Ontario, they might not know where that is or can make it there. So my first rule was, well, you probably could work from home most of the time, if not all the time. So that actually opens up the market for us. But also then perhaps some of your great talents in your organization could also now look elsewhere also. So, I mean, we're very mindful of that. So we were already kind of going down that road. And now since, when the pandemic hit and the way we're working now, I think it's just accelerated it a great deal. So I already felt we were kind of 2 steps ahead when it came to that.
What advice do you have for job seekers at this time?
I remember one of the posts that you had on LinkedIn before about the crystal ball and where the job market is going. I thought it was a phenomenal post and it resonated with me. And I would start first with, technology is really transforming and disrupting the industry, and we've seen it more than ever the past year. If you are, a new graduate or you're starting out, I think getting into technology or data space is the place to be. Lots of opportunity. I think the second part to understand, maybe you're in that industry now or somewhere else, but now being able to work anywhere, anytime, you've got a lot more opportunity, but there's also a lot more competition. So I think leveraging your own personal network that you have is really important. I think also leveraging partners like yourself, Virginia, that have a large network is really important, because at the end of the day, like, relationships are a huge part of, where jobs open and who comes in and out. So, and finding that next candidate. One of the things I say to, a lot of the new graduates coming out, if you're a technology or a data individual, lots of opportunity out there, but for you to be really successful is you really want to understand the business. Maybe even try wherever organization you're working to understand or do some work in the business. And on the flip side, on the commerce side or marketing or finance, if they get into understanding how technology works, it just allows them to be so multidimensional in their skill set and so invaluable.
What advice would you have for IT leaders at this time?
The first one that I think of is, again, be compassionate and empathetic for your people within your group and your team. Because at the end of the day, we're all about the people make the difference. So I think, all of us are going through something different right now. We might not all understand what that is. Again, for my situation, I've got a young family, so
Yeah.
I'm juggling a dozen meetings a day, class, keeping the house in order. My philosophy as a leader has always been about building and maintaining trust, not only from myself as a leader to the employee, but as the employee back to me. And, I've been able to build a network but with that type of relationship. And I think as a leader, you want to strive to become like that unforgettable leader.
Yeah.
If you can, the unforgettable one in a good way,
Yes.
because you
Right.
don't, right? Because you don't, most individuals stay or leave a lot of times because of their direct manager.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful words of wisdom today with us. I'm wishing you and your family all the best in 2021.
All the
Cheers.
best to you. Cheers.